Hey everybody, this is Janet, and I wanted to show you guys a little bit of TinkerCAD. So this virtual platform allows you to drag and drop shapes and geometrics into a work plane. This can be thought of as something that you can use for 3D printing or for Minecraft or just for conveying your virtual ideas to somebody else. So a lot of different ways that you can bring things in. Orbiting is important. That's going to be using your mouse and the right clicker. Moving up and down in space is using this arrow up top or the command or control button with your arrow pad on the keypad. Bring in other objects, manipulate them, move them around, orbit, and orbit often, because sometimes you can get into a situation where things look like they are a certain way, but they're actually not. And then you go to move it, and you can get lost in space. So my favorite tip for that is selecting your objects, going up to the Align tool, clicking on those center pads, and then orbiting around and adjusting your object as needed. Again, remember that the command or control with the up arrow and down arrow allows you to adjust your Z direction. You can change your snap grid units down in that lower corner. Also, this is really cool. You can change the angle of things, either dragging inside or outside of that circle, and you can turn any shape into a hole, which is really cool. Just select it, go up to that little box right there that says hole, and then you render it by grouping everything together, and it shows you what that entire piece looks like. So now I want to show you a few more things. So as you're dragging shapes in and starting to get used to this landscape of CAD design, we can start to create walls and merge shapes together as I was showing you before. It does just take a little while to get used to things. Don't worry if you get lost in space for a little bit still. You can also, once you adjust your height and create your spaces, you can also change the color of things as well by selecting on a wall, going up to solid, and adjusting in there. You can also change it into a transparency if that matters. You can also say preserve color, or multicolor, I'm sorry about that. Multicolor allows you to group things, but then go back to your different colors. Okay, cool. So underneath TinkerCAD shapes, there are some really cool other things, like the Smithsonian has 3D scanned a bunch of their artifacts, and they are available for you in here as well. Now, sometimes these files are a little bit big, and they take a while to drag into the landscape. So if that's the case, try not to get too frustrated. It's just kind of a large file. Okay, so we've got a woolly mammoth here. I want to bring in a triceratops head because I think that's totally cool. And I'm going to start thinking about the objects that I want to curate in my collection and how I want to lay them out, because the way you lay things out tells a story. And there's a whole art to that as well. But right now, we're just going to start messing around. Again, right now I'm using my trackpad and my up and down arrows to manipulate where this head goes on the wall. And again, I can create taller walls as well. We are going to talk a little bit about scale and thinking about how things relate to one another so that nothing is totally out of whack as far as scale goes. But we will do that in the next video. All right, welcome back everybody. I have worked on putting together a little bit of a museum. This is my WA entrance museum with a woolly mammoth, a triceratops head, some fun couches. I think I should probably put Lincoln's hands in here. That seems like a good idea. Pretty sure this is a big file, so that might take a second for that to actually load. In the meanwhile, let me give you a tour. So you can see that I've created a custom table here with a transparent glass top, and used the scribble tool to create that amazing, very modernist base that you see underneath it. We've got some greenery, some WLA. Oh, there we go. There are our hands. We've got, let's see, what else do we have here? Our couches, Helen Keller's sculpture. Yeah, and I'm just orbiting around. You can orbit with your mouse or with the trackpad. I really prefer having a mouse in this case. Even still, it can be a little bit clunky, as you can see here. But let's see, these hands really belong in that forest over there. So at any rate, you can kind of start to play with layout, think about storytelling as you're walking through the space, and think about what kind of objects you want to have in your museum. Okay, so now that we've created a little space here that's got a little bit of a story to tell, it's a lot of fun. We've got some creative juices flowing. We can also start to reflect on how this is a collaborative project and how this can connect students even while they're working remotely and at a distance. Now we can do that in some really clever ways, where if we talk about scale and scale factors that everybody is abiding by, now we have pieces that are parts of either the same exhibition or different spaces that can coexist in the same universe. So maybe the project is to recreate the National Mall. And we can do that with the students' ideas and exhibition and design spaces that they are curating. I think that we also have an opportunity to tell different stories. Obviously, students can select an object, a historical object of significance that means something to them, that they can write the blurb that goes on the wall of their museum about. So, what about that is going to be engaging and interesting? Now we can talk about graphic design and different aspects of how you tell a story with words. Maybe it's also using recordings. It doesn't just have to be written. So now we've got some English tie-ins, we've got historical tie-ins, social movements, as well as geometry, math, and some other contextual learning points that are going to connect everything together.